One of the things that we need to talk about is, did Sean Payton tell George Payton to tell Russell Wilson to take that pay cut earlier in the season? Because we were told from the very beginning this was a football decision from Sean Payton. He said he wasn't privy to the conversations, these contract conversations, and he said, at the right time, you'll be able to ask the appropriate people what exactly went down in these contract negotiations that clearly upset, saddened Russell Wilson during the bye week. You know who that appropriate person was to talk to, Sean or Todd?
I think it was the second person you mentioned.
It was George Payton. He was that one, and we talked to him for the first time today.
Nope.
And here's what he had to say about it.
The Russ situation, hopefully one time and as thorough as possible. During the bye week, I did reach out to Russ's agent in a good faith and creative attempt to adjust his contract. We couldn't get a deal done. We moved on with our season. It didn't come up again. Fast forward week 17, Sean makes a change at the quarterback position. This was a football decision made by Sean, what he thought was in the best interest of the team. This was completely independent of any conversations I had with the agent. Again, it was a football decision made by Sean.
These two things? No, totally different. How would you guys even connect the dots here? That's essentially what George is telling us. He's saying he approached Russell Wilson and his representatives up to about a good faith, professional, creative way to change this contract. A deal didn't come through. And then 7 weeks later, the football guy made the football decision. That's the story that now every member of the Broncos is trying to put out there.
I think it can be true though. We talked about it on the show maybe 2 weeks ago, whenever the situation happened, that both stories could have been true, to where Russ's side said they had conversations about, wanting to move his injury guarantee, and then Sean saying it was a football decision. And clearly there you see how they both could be true, where George Payton was the one talking to the agents. And we talked about on the show, that's not something a head coach usually does.
Yeah.
They have too much on their plate to be worried about salaries and different things in the middle of the season. So I think both of them could be true. And then I think that, Sean could have made a decision. George could have been popping champagne in his office because everything worked out, and that injury guarantee didn't hit. So they both could be true.
Yeah, and I actually, I believe that because George Payton was grilled maybe harder than I've seen by the media today, and for anyone that I've covered, about one specific thing. Did Sean Payton know about these contract talks between George Payton and Russell Wilson's camp? And you know what George said?
No.
He didn't say anything. And what wasn't said tells me that, and I felt this way for a long time, George Payton is a really stand-up guy. I don't think he likes to lie. I don't know if he really ever lies to the media. And so he could have said, no. That would have been a bold-faced lie that I think everyone would have felt pretty comfortable calling a lie. But instead, he just took the I'm not going to answer that route. He didn't say those. He just kind of worked around that and was even pressed that's not an answer. And he said, that's all I'm going to say on it. So I think what wasn't said was huge there. And come on, you think the general manager, especially with how much power Sean Payton has, that Sean Payton's not going to know that the team is trying to change and restructure their franchise quarterback's contract? Of course he knows. But you know what? The NFLPA got involved. The NFL got involved with this. And if there's going to be any legal action, it's probably best to try to build that Sean didn't know, George didn't know. These were two separate things working together. But credit to George, he didn't lie about it.
That's good. I think it's funny because I kind of think about the whole situation kind of like with the mob mentality. Like Sean's a made man right now in the organization. And so George if you want to stay a part of the organization, you don't rat on a made man. I'm not saying anything happened, but you got the head of the organization sitting there front row. Yeah, you better, you know what I'm saying? Let's everybody say what they need to say.
They're in a room back somewhere in the back playing poker, and they're just like cigars are being lit. Like, you want to stay, baby? You know what to do, right?
You go up and you take this bullet.
Exactly.
And let's hear one more clip from Sean or from George talking about this. And check out George's quarter zip too. It's awesome.
In regards to Sean, Sean was not part of the negotiation. Sean was getting ready for Buffalo, and we handled the business. Rich and I. Sean was in season. Sean is in prep mode, and he was preparing for Buffalo.
So I jumped the gun a little bit. That was and then he was grilled like 2 or 3 times after that. Like, well, you didn't really answer the question. And again, he just took I'm not going to speak on that instead of throwing Sean under the bus there of him knowing. But that's exactly why George was the one doing this. George is the contract guy.
Yeah, for sure.
When it comes to these. So I do believe that in this, Sean didn't go to George and say, you have to do this, and George said this isn't really my job. No, that is how it works.
For sure. And I think it'd be just as weird if if George was coming down giving Sean plays.
Right.
Exactly. Everybody has a job, they have a role to play. I think this was primarily George's decision in his realm of expertise, and also what he had control over. So I think it was on him for sure.
So where do things sit now? With everything we've talked about from what these guys talked about today, with how that situation was handled, where it stands now, and then how the team is viewing Russ going forward.
Well, I kind of think about it a couple different ways. Like, if it was really a threat in that big of a situation, I think Russ would be less optimistic about coming back or want to come back. Because if you've truly been done wrong, I think he would want to exit as quick as possible. So I don't think it was as terrible as a situation as it was made to seem to start. And overall, I feel like they must have a better working relationship than a lot of people think, because the door is still open. Even if it is a back door, side door, dog door, they didn't lock the house down and throw up the metal shutter so nobody could get in. Like, they have some kind of communication there, and it obviously was a situation that nobody loved, but it wasn't as terrible as it was made to seem by the media.
I think that's spot on, because if it was that bad, there's no 30-minute conversation between Sean and Russ. The breakup would be announced today. That would be coming out. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. What chance have your chances of Russ coming back changed at all?
No, I think it's still like a 5% chance, because honestly, as a player, I don't see why he would take a pay cut. I just don't see it working out. Like, you take a pay cut to go somewhere where you guys have had a lot of success and you want to create more, or you're in a situation that's really favorable for you with people that you really enjoy working with. And you take the pay cut knowing that, somewhere down the line, I'll end up making more money because I chose this route. And for him being in year 12, 13, I don't see that being the case. I think you take the $80 million and then you try your hand wherever else you want to play.
You're getting $39 million check come March, regardless of where you're playing. So why would you lower that to $5 million to stay in a place that has not been nice to you personally, professionally? I'm sure it has not been easy for his family having to be around this place that has been so tough on him, rightfully so. So that's outside the organization. Then inside the organization, he's been benched. And so much so that his camp went out and really, as Ryan Green puts it, took a flamethrower to this situation by leaking all the contract stuff that's happened. So I think I said 0.1% chance when we talked about this 2 weeks ago. I think that the Broncos are now looking at the situation and saying, shit, that's a lot of dead money.
Yeah.
And for us to compete next year, which is what Sean absolutely wants to do, and we were having a conversation in the office earlier, I think Sean is desperate to win right now.
For sure.
I think Greg Penner is also desperate to win right now. He talked about that today. He said, Broncos fans, we are just as eager to win immediately as you guys are. This is not acceptable. We need to get back to winning right now. I really think among these big three, the only person that would be okay with the rebuild is George Payton, and he has probably at the bottom of the chain of these three guys in terms of power. So if you take an $80 million dead cap hit and you're drafting a rookie, and especially if you're trading up for one, you're kind of on two different paths.
Yep.
You're mortgaging everything for the future, but then you have to win now. But now is also hurt big time. So I think that there is truly a path for Russ to return, but it's not likely because it's going to come down to Russ taking a big pay cut. And the only reason he would do that, you asked that question, Todd, is Russ just talks about how much of a competitor he is and how much he wants to be on the field and how much it killed him having to be on the sideline. And I do believe that. So if Russ wants, and if he's guaranteed a starting role here, maybe he takes that, but he probably also looks at Pittsburgh. He looks at Atlanta. He looks at Seattle maybe and says, there's other opportunities where I'll get paid more, I'll be treated better, and I'll have more of a guarantee that I'll truly be the starter than here. But I'll move it up to 5%. I'll rock with you on that 5%.
Yeah, he literally holds all the chips right now.
Yeah.
Like he has the commanding role within this negotiation. And if they're willing to make it like a signing bonus, I think maybe they can make something work. But the ball is completely in Russ's court for him to try and make a decision. And for Sean, I understand the need to win now. Like I left the studio, which is very comfortable. Like, this is it. I love DNVR. It's very comfortable. I don't know when I would leave because I like it so much. Plus, I already have put together a Hall of Fame career almost. So to come now and kind of same thing that's happened to Russ. All that Russ has done since he's been here has kind of hurt his Hall of Fame career. It's true. And I feel like if Sean just goes on a losing streak for multiple seasons, it just hurts, the optics of his Hall of Fame career. So I understand the need to win now.
Yeah, 100%.